Hi Capricorn, welcome to your prosperity reading for the period from April 1st until July 1st. And I was looking through my videos and I realized that I had this set of readings coming up. So for some reason I wanted to do your sign first. And I've actually ordered some prosperity cards and they haven't come yet. So what I'm going to do for you is I'm just going to like randomly pick a passage from a book called The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity by Catherine Ponder. Some of you may have heard of this book. I have attended for a few decades Unity Church, and they have that book. I think I bought that there. I don't know if she was a Unity person, but yeah, it's a lot of very similar to the law of attraction, or you could say it is the law of attraction. So I'll read a passage of that, and then I'm going to do a tarot spread. I'm not going to do astrology. I was kind of debating on whether or not to do that because the degree of your sun or your rising sign really does make a difference in terms of timing. This is one of the reasons why I've been so hesitant to do just pure astrology readings in general, because I did that when I first started this channel. Well, not when I first started the channel, but when I first started doing predictions, or whatever you want to call it. I don't even like to call them predictions, readings. I did astrology before I did tarot, and I just didn't like, it wasn't as fun to me as doing the tarot, because for a general reading, I do love doing astrology in my private readings. So I wanted to let you know that if you are looking for that kind of thing, that I do have career readings and life path readings that really focus on your natal chart, because that can, be very good to kind of hone in on things. And I don't like talking about timing issues with the general readings, although I do it, sometimes with my regular tarot readings. So anyway, that was a long-winded thing for me to talk about this. So let me pull these cards and then I will read the passage before I... And I'm just doing the spread that I always do, but this is just going to have a particular career focus. It's funny because I just did general readings, and I get very leery of doing too many readings because I just don't want people to think I'm spamming their inboxes. But by the same token, I enjoy doing readings, so it's like kind of one of those catch-22 situations. And since I've, pretty much done all of my typical readings, I have time on my hands, so I thought, why not? And so, anyway, before I tell you what those cards mean, let me just pick, okay. This is what I picked for you, Capricorn. Work is divine. The word work means different things to different people. A prosperous thinker might think of work as divine or sublime, or as the creative activity of good in some satisfying form which is balanced with play, rest, and harmonious surroundings. Khalil Gibran has written that work is love made visible. Perhaps you do not agree that work is divine, sublime, or even a satisfying inner expression of your talents and abilities. The work you are doing at the moment may not seem divine. If not, there is a reason, and that reason is good. But let us go back of the result to the cause. William James once stated that 90% of us are using only 10% of our mind power. Psychologists believe that every human being is a dynamo of concentrated creative energy, which is ever seeking new avenues of expressions. The desire for prosperity and for beneficial self-expression in work is but a part of that creative energy trying to express in our lives. When the right avenues are found for the constructive outlet of that creative energy and the right attitudes are established, man is happy, well-adjusted, and considers his work divine. But when right avenues of expression have not been found and the right attitudes are not established, that same creative energy is restricted to expression in mediocre ways. Then man is unhappy and considers work a curse, instead of the divine blessing that it is intended to be. Many people find themselves in work that they consider unpleasant while they are still near the bottom of the ladder of success. It is their attitude and reaction to their work at this point which determines whether they remain at the bottom and go on cursing their work, or whether they go on up the ladder of the success ladder step by step. Dissatisfaction can be good because it often prods one to aim higher and then to do whatever is necessary to get there. Well, I couldn't have picked a better thing for Capricorn, because I feel like a lot of you do this naturally. You aspire to greatness, and this is like, your symbol is the mountain goat, so you're always climbing that mountain. The thing about Capricorn is not an allergy to work, because you tend to be very hard workers and have a very good work ethic. I think the challenge is to not gravitate towards work that is the safest bet or the highest prestige, but something that really speaks to you personally, that you feel that your talents are being used appropriately, and that you don't consider status as the most important thing. And that's hard, because a lot of times it's just the makeup of your nature and the circumstances in your life that may lead you to want to better yourself, because maybe if you start low, you rise much higher. I just thought of Cary Grant, a famous actor who was actually born in a very, I think it was kind of like a slum in London, Cockney. And if you ever heard, and he didn't have a Cockney accent, but if you ever heard him speak, you'd think, he was just so suave, and debonair. And yet that was what happened. He was able to aspire to greatness, and he really raised his station in life. And that's like the quintessential Capricorn trait. Okay, so the card for the overall theme of this period of time is the Star card. When I see the Star card, I always think that the person has just come out of the fire and is once again feeling a sense of alignment with the great beyond, and maybe with their higher self, or with their people that have, in their life that have crossed over, their spirit guides, the universe itself. Because this is a card of renewed hope. And so with career matters, if you have been feeling like the opposite of that, maybe hopeless or cynical, there might be something that occurs that makes you feel that all has not been lost. Maybe in the 11th hour. Now remember that this period is from April 1st until July 1st. And so it could be something that occurs within that time frame. It doesn't mean at the beginning of that time frame that you have experienced it. actually, for the past position, I get the Knight of Cups, and this can be an offer that is given to you, and so it may come out of left field, and you're like, wow, this is great, and you feel a sense of positivity that this has happened. Now, here's the thing. Now this is kind of accompanying that focus card, the Two of Pentacles. So this could be a dilemma. You may be deciding between what you're doing and an offer. You may get an offer, but it's for something overseas. You see the ship in the water. It can sometimes indicate that. Or you're just balancing two different jobs. Whoa. And so that can indicate that you're very busy and almost like even to the point of being harried because you're like doing so much. But the point is that you may feel that there's forward movement. Maybe before you were in a stagnant mode. And of course, you've had to deal with Pluto in your own sign. And likewise, you're going to have Saturn enter your sign. And this is happening in December. So that's going to be another thing. Now for you, because you're ruled by Saturn, this can actually be very good for Capricorns. With that Plutonian energy kind of shaking things up, it might take Saturn to ground everything and keep things under control, because you've probably been experiencing a lot of twists and turns in your journey through life lately. The higher perspective is the Knight of Pentacles. This is a card I associate with Capricorn, but I guess it's actually connected to Taurus. It's definitely an earth sign energy. Virgo is another earth sign, but it's the kind of the plodding, methodical person who is just totally, geared towards amassing money. And that's like the goal at hand. Now, as a higher message, I would say to look at that tendency, to see if perhaps maybe that's too much, something that you have a tendency to do, that you perhaps are overly security-minded or overly materialistic. Capricorn people tend to not be like those kinds of people that waste money on things just to show off. Usually they want something that is long-lasting and is of value. And so the question becomes, is the money the sole focus? And that can indicate that your aim is too narrow, and that you could just be like in robot mode if you don't watch out. The Knight of Pentacles is also kind of like an unimaginative person, because they are so focused on that particular goal. And so it's asking you not to put yourself in that rut, which of course happens if somebody was working 10 hours a day. They're not going to have time for anything else. And life is about balance. What crosses you? The challenge card is the Justice card. So I read this in the reversed position. And what I would say is it's issue of fairness. This could be something that you're dealing with currently, where you don't feel like you're being treated maybe as other people in your workplace, or it could be just how much you're getting paid, compensated. Sometimes the people that are the most dependable, as evidenced by the Knight of Pentacles, are taken advantage of. They're, what's that term? You know, like kind of taken for granted. And if you are too worried about making waves because you're just focused on having that steady paycheck, then that could exacerbate the situation. The advice or what's coming in is the Death card, and this can indicate transition during this 3-month period. It could mean that you may think, oh my God, does this mean that I'm going to lose my job? No, it might mean that you end a behavior that you're doing that is self-defeating, that is keeping you down. And it could be as simple as that you end up working less hours. Maybe you decide that you are putting too much time into that one area and you're not spending time with your family or your partner. It could be that it's always possible in our lives that there is, if you don't work for yourself, I mean, somebody else can, lay you off, obviously. But the thing about it is you have to be aware of that at all times, right? I mean, this is true. It's funny. It's true about life itself, is that death is inevitable. And so that could be what it's also saying, is that all of this is temporary. You can't take it with you. So whatever you do in your life, whatever your goals are, don't think that the more money you amass or the higher you go on the ladder of success, that you can cheat death, that it's not going to come. Because you know what? You may soar to the greatest heights, but if you're not doing something that you really love, eventually you may say, wow, I have all this money, but I never spent time with my children, or I never spent time with my partner, and now we're divorced or we're separated. Was it really worth it? I never went and took vacations. I never spent downtime. I was just always working. I know a man who was working at least until the age of 70, and he was probably making a really, really good living based on what I knew of him. But he was diagnosed with a progressive disease, that debilitates people more and more. And he ended up having to have a nurse and dying before he had retired. And he had never enjoyed his retirement, and he was very affluent, and he could have spent time with his wife traveling and just having a good time, but he couldn't retire for whatever reason. Now maybe he enjoyed providing for his family. His children were grown up though. So you see that all of that, you can get so hooked into that you lose sight of the bigger picture. And I think that's kind of what the Knight of Pentacles is talking about as well. And the outcome is the 5 of Swords. And the number 5 can represent change. And swords can represent your thoughts. Now, a lot of times when I get this card, I think of gossiping and all this stuff. But in this context, I think it's about you becoming more flexible in your thinking patterns, and maybe being able to see things in a different way. They say that Capricorns get younger as they get older, and they start to let their hair down when they start, probably in middle age or so, and they don't take things as seriously. if you see a picture of a Capricorn when they're very young, they may have a very serious expression on their face. But they do start to like loosen up and enjoy life more. And this is because Saturn it really kicks in the later years. It's all about age. And, you know, like a fine wine, right? So you should be able to change your thoughts. Anyone can change their thoughts. And I think Louise Hay has a book called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. So definitely I would say that to Capricorns regarding, you know, your finances and your career is just to keep an open mind and to read a lot of positive thinking books that have to do with affluence and attracting, you know, the good to you. And you will do very well, I'm sure. So I hope you enjoyed this, Capricorn, and good luck to you. Bye.